are watching this on a replay, perhaps you're tuning in on YouTube, our weekly expansion sessions are our group coaching and co-working sessions that go down inside of the Better Witch community over on School. The Better Witch community has 2 levels of participation, and everyone who is on the bunker level gets to attend these weekly sessions. And they are an opportunity for us to get to know each other, for us to share our wins and our losses of the week, to learn something so that as we make improvements for the week ahead, we actually know what we need to know in order to do that. And then we spend time together in co-working, which I am very passionate about, because if you don't know me, I am the founder of WitchWork, which is the only co-working space in New York City for spiritual and wellness practitioners. We've been open for 4.5 years here in the Bronx. And I have just seen the power firsthand of working communally. It's really crazy. I don't know if we would have been like this had COVID not happened, because I think it made us crave connection even more. But whatever the explanation, I have noticed that when people come together and get work done, even when they're working on separate projects, there's like an energy that builds in the space that really helps to keep you focused and keep you motivated. So we spend the second half of our expansion sessions in co-working together, which has been really beautiful and super helpful for me in terms of like ending procrastination or preventing procrastination and making sure that I have dedicated time every week to work. I love it. So I definitely pray that you guys love it too. And I want to welcome all the Better Witches who are in the bunker and in the expansion session today. Thank you for being here. It's so wonderful to get to know you all. And I am excited to spend that time together. I want to remind you all of the expansion session pro tips. I encourage you to turn off your phones and your distractions. Make sure to keep your microphones on and put the expansion sessions on your calendar so that you don't forget about them, and you make sure that you're here every week, Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, inside of the community on School. You can find the link to the session on the calendar, to each session on the calendar. And I also want to remind you that a replay of this portion of the expansion session will be available for you in the classroom in the weekly goals course. That's where you will find any materials that I refer to, as well as a replay of this video. So if you need this educational material in the future, you always have access to it if you are in the bunker. Okay, I think that's all of the messages that I need to announce. Let's start talking about the very important topic that we are here for, which is how to unbleep our money. Very, very important stuff. When I first started charging people for tarot readings, which was the very first spiritual service I ever offered, I was so confused about what was my money, what was the business's money. It is my money. It's all the same. And also, like, I need to spend it on things. And also, I'm not making very much. So if I have to buy stuff to run this business, where does that come from? How do I do that? I was very confused. And I found trying to get that information by just like Googling on, like going on Google or looking things up on YouTube was not super helpful. Most of the information out there was geared, I felt, to like bigger companies and organizations and things like that. And I was like, no, this doesn't apply to me. I'm just like one person that's like charging like relatively low amounts of money for something. I'm doing this on the side right now. It's not my full-time thing. Like, what do I do if I have a job? A lot of the resources didn't consider that. I was just like, I'm having a hard time finding information, not about the topic of commingling money, but for a solopreneur and someone offering services like mine. And it wasn't until I hired an accountant and bookkeeper that I was able to get information that was specific to me and the type of business that I have, which is very similar to the type of business that all of you have. So they were able to help me understand how to unbleep my money and make sure that I was not mixing things that I wasn't supposed to, and that I was tracking things properly, and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to share that with you all today. And it's important that you know that that is how I have come to the knowledge that I have about this particular topic. I am a law school dropout. Okay. So I am not a lawyer. I am not an accountant. I am not certified in finances or anything like that. This is advice and guidance, or it's not advice, it's guidance that I can offer to you in terms of examples of what I went through and what I have learned. So always make sure before you make any decisions in your business that you do consult with an attorney or with an accountant that you hire for your business purposes, so that they can give you information that is not general and not my experience, but specific for yours. But the information I'm going to share here today is going to give you a really good foundation and overall understanding about what the difference is between your money and your business's money, and how you should handle each of these. And this is important because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are safe and protected. I'm going to be talking a lot this year, I think, about being safe and protected as practitioners. 2026 is the year of the witch. I keep saying that. We're going to have a lot of eyes on us this year. And there is already a lot of negative stigma around and narrative around what we do and who we are. And one of the ways that we can combat that is by making sure that our businesses are set up and are operating properly and in accordance with, what is the normal expected standard. I think that our tendency to be very under the table in the way that we run our businesses, while it's understandable and I don't judge it, it doesn't help when it comes to convincing people that we are legitimate practitioners and that we take ourselves seriously and that we're not scammers, honestly. Our economy is a burgeoning economy. It's growing and it's starting to get attention. And whenever that happens, you're going to attract scammers. I don't know if you all remember Instagram. It seems to have died down. It's really weird. But for quite a while there during COVID, when tarot reading online blew up, so did the phenomenon of the scam tarot reader page, right? Every single reader I've ever seen, I had to do this, had to start putting out constant notifications and posts telling people that's not me. I'll never DM you, asking you for money, trying to set up a reading, et cetera, et cetera. And that will probably happen again when anything that we're doing comes back up on the scene and is tied to the possibility of making money. Anytime people see an opportunity to make money, as they may think easily, there is room for scammers. So we want to make sure that we distinguish ourselves right from the jump from anybody like that, both because that will bring confidence when it comes to the people who need our help, but also because eyes will be on us, and it will be important potentially to really make clear that you are legitimate. Okay. So it's a safety situation. It's a protection situation. Consider the steps that you are about to take to be a protection spell that you are casting over your business. And the good news, it's a very easy spell to cast, because fixing the problem of co-mingling, especially if you're already making that mistake, is a pretty easy one to fix. So it's an easy spell to cast, and a couple of tweaks and a couple of pieces of information that you probably don't have right now, going to clear it right up. Okay. So just keep that in mind. And I hope that makes you a little less nervous about the idea of like understanding your money. So what is it? Commingling in plain English is what happens when you mix your personal money and your business money, right? So that's like the very, very basic definition. Probably you already knew that if you speak English and you understand co and mingling. So that probably didn't help you very much. And that is like all the information, that everything that I would read online just kept bringing me back to this. And I was like, yeah, but what? Like, but how? Like, how do you not commingle things? I think understanding what it is helps a little bit. Okay. And first of all, it's important to know that everybody kind of makes this mistake in the beginning. So don't freak out. All right. But there are a couple of examples of commingling that you might already be engaging in. Um, if your, for example, client payments, so whether you're selling products or you're offering a service, if the money that you are getting for that is going into a personal checking account, that's one flag that we may be commingling here. Another is if you are paying your personal bills from a business bank account. So maybe you opened a business bank account, but you have your rent coming out of that account, or perhaps you're using the debit card or credit card associated with that account to buy personal items for yourself. If that is happening, that's a red flag. Commingling may be happening here. And if you only have one debit card or one credit card that you're using for everything, that's another indication that we may have too much connection between our money. And if you remember from our last session, if you were here last week, we talked about why we need an EIN and why having a separate entity identity for our business keeps us distant and keeps us protected. This is another way in which we do that very same thing. Keeping our personal money away from our business money keeps it protected. It keeps it a little bit further. It doesn't mean that it could never be impacted. If you have an issue with your business and you're sued or something like that, could your personal money be touched? Potentially, but the more space you put between the two, the better, right? And so having the same debit card or the same credit cards and using the same accounts means they're not far enough apart to protect them. So if you're doing any of those things, then we definitely need to take action. And it is not allowed for a number of reasons. If you're like, what is the big deal? I don't get it. It's my money. At the end of the day, it's all going in the same place. Why do I need to do all of these steps? On the legal side of things, like I said, putting your money together just makes them so connected that your personal money could be impacted by things that go on in your business world. And that may not be very good for you. When it comes to your taxes, having everything mixed up like that can cause a lot of confusion and messy records. And that could be an issue just in terms of like making sure you have accurate numbers and stuff. If everything is messy, it'll be hard for you to know what you're spending and what you're making. And that's problematic. But also, should you, God forbid, be audited by the IRS or have some issue that comes up where someone needs all of your financial records, if your records are messy, it might also make it hard for you to like defend yourself or explain something weird that happened, right? So messy records are not good for taxes. And it could also increase the chances that you get audited in the first place. So we don't want to do that. And then it's also not allowed, I think, like on a energetic level, because it's puts you and your business into survival mode and it just kind of sticks you there. Your business is your baby. And just like with, a human baby, the idea is not to have them like growing inside of you forever. The idea is to birth them and have them be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And having your business and your personal finances separated helps to put your business in a place where it's standing on its own 2 feet and it's doing its own thing and it isn't so dependent on you. Ultimately, all of us want to retire one day or at least have the option and the choice to do so. But you don't necessarily want your business to stop just because you are working less. You might have the desire to see your business continue on after you're no longer working in it or maybe no longer even alive. And so, putting your business on its own 2 feet, like the sooner the better, it is for you to like reach those goals. Okay. So energetically, there's an impact to it as well. Separation ultimately is protection on all fronts. So, how do we open a business bank account? It's actually a pretty easy process. All right. There are a couple of things you're going to need to have ready so that you can give the bank everything they need, or I'll say financial institution. We'll talk about the places you can get a business bank account in a second. But the financial institution that you're opening your account with is going to need some general information, and all of these institutions will vary, so you'll find out from them exactly. But generally speaking, you're going to need to produce your business name. Now, first and foremost, your business name isn't just a name that you chose, and it isn't just an Instagram handle. When we say business name, we are talking about your legal business name, which means you have to establish a legal business name. So that's the first thing that you're going to need to do. If you haven't done that, then you won't be able to open up a bank account. How do you make a legal business name? We've talked about before, and we'll talk about in other expansion sessions. If you haven't taken those sessions with me before, there's a business formation checklist for all of my BetterWitch folks in the classroom that has some general guidance there. But basically, if no government body knows the name of your business, then your business doesn't really have a name yet. Okay, so you are going to establish a name either by filling out a business certificate, sometimes called a DBA, on the local clerk level in your town, or you are going to be doing this on the federal level by establishing an LLC or setting up a corporation, a company. Those are things that you and I can talk about one-on-one with me in a coaching session. So if you are one of my program Better Witches, then let's talk about it in our next session. And if you are not, then perhaps you want to join one of my programs, or you can set up an individual session with me. So just comment or reach out if you're not sure how to do that. And you and I can sit down one-on-one and talk about making sure you actually legally own your business and have a name. But that is going to be step one. For you, having a business name, and the first thing that your bank is going to want from you. Next, they are going to want your identifying number. So this is either going to be an EIN or a social security number, and that will most likely depend on whether or not you have a DBA on the local level or an LLC. Okay. The bank might, or financial institution might also need your LLC documents. So the documents that you got when you incorporated, or whatever incorporating documents you have, whatever your business might not be an LLC, but for the vast majority of us, it will be. And so the documentation that you have establishing that might be required. And then, as always with anything with the bank, you're going to need your photo ID. Okay, so it's not a complicated list of things that you need, and it is all stuff that if you have established your business properly, you're going to have. And again, I'm happy to help any of you like with this process. And you can also ask your fellow Better Witches. We have a very lively conversation and discussion feed here on school, and there's like 46 of us now, which is incredible. Okay. And there are plenty of folks in the room who have already gone through this process. So rely on each other, seek the information from me or the other Better Witches to help you get that set up. But that is how you will open up your business bank account. And I think the most important thing for all of you to know is that this is a process that really should be starting right now, no matter what. A misconception is thinking that you need to be making money already in your business in order to bother with opening up the business bank account. Not the case at all. Even if you haven't made a single dollar, I recommend that you take advantage of the opportunity to do it, because it's typically going to be free. And we'll talk about, again, types of business bank accounts. You might have fees. It's going to be a choice you make where you go, etc. But generally speaking, it's free to open the account pretty much everywhere. And all of the other documents that you get, whether it's your EIN or your LLC, are like fairly low cost. So this process is something that you can do really early on in the beginning of your business. Okay. So choosing a bank account is a very important choice. It's one of the very important choices that you make when it comes to handling your money. We have a tendency as like regular people to make our banking choices in a very like maybe like unintentional or kind of like lazy way, right? You usually open up a bank account at the bank that's like closest to you in your town or neighborhood. You know what I mean? You want to be able to find a bank that's got like lots of ATMs in the places that you go to. And most of us don't feel educated enough on finance to really bother with like a deep dive into the different banks that are out there and financial institutions that are out there. But you are not a regular person. You are not a basic witch. You are a witchpreneur. So you are going to start thinking about things like this, because the banks that you choose can have a huge impact on you and the success of your business, whether it's how much they cost you, whether it's how much they're able to help you, what kind of products and like good deals and rates they have to support your business, and what kind of resources and relationships you can build with them as well. Are they going to have your back as a small business, or are you just a number that they don't care about? Can really make a difference when it comes time for you, like maybe needing something from the bank or what have you. So we're going to give some thought to choosing our bank accounts. We're not going to just pick the first one that we see. So where can you open up a bank account? One of the places you can open up a bank account is a credit union. Credit unions are really popular with folks for business bank accounts or just bank accounts in general, because credit unions are unions, right? So they're like community-based financial institutions, and they tend to be a lot more personable than the bigger financial institutions that are run by board members that don't know the community. Credit unions also, they're FDIC insured, I imagine, just like any other bank, but they're a little bit more independent. So if the big banks are aligned politically or doing things with their money that you do not support and you do not want to have a bank account with them, you don't want to be paying fees to them, credit unions are a little bit easier to learn about, to understand where they stand on certain issues, and they tend to be more in alignment with their community's views than perhaps like the big institutions and things like that. So if all of those things are important to you, and I imagine they might be, then a credit union is a great idea. Credit unions are a little harder to get into. They're usually invite only. Some of them are invite only and also industry specific. So like USAA is only for military families and like their descendants and stuff like that. So you have to be invited, not just invited, but also be invited and have a connection to the military. So they're a little harder to get into, but if you can get into them, they also tend to have much better rates on things, like higher interest rates for your bank accounts and lower rates for loans and all that good stuff. So they really are a good idea if you can get into one. Then, of course, you have your local banks. These are smaller banks I'm referring to, so not local in the sense of like they're close to you. In New York City, we have, a Chase down the street. There's nothing local about Chase Bank. So I'm talking about the local banks. Like here, we have Ponce Bank and Valley Bank and Spring National, or just I think Spring Bank. And these are banks that literally are just located in the New York area or in the Bronx or the Hudson Valley, whatever the case may be. They're smaller, and these are great options. And I put them above the national banks again because of that personal touch. So, it just can make a really huge difference rather than talking to like an automated robot or somebody that sees thousands of people a year, to talk to a banker, to explain your situation and be able to be led in the right direction and have someone you can work with in the long term. And it's just so much easier to establish with your local banks. Then you have your national banks, of course. And your national banks, while they're not super personal, one of the benefits of them is you pretty much know everything that they're doing and what they're going to do. You also know that they're going to be around for the long haul. Local banks do go out of business. They do go bankrupt and go out of business, or they get bought out by other banks. And that's less likely to happen with the big national banks. They buy the banks, right? They don't get bought. So if you are concerned about that, if you've seen like banks pop in and pop out of your town and it's like, where'd that bank go? And you don't want to deal with that, then a national bank might be good. If access to ATMs and not having to pay ATM fees is very important to you, maybe you travel a lot, or maybe you plan on using cash quite a bit, going in and out of your ATMs a lot, then your national banks would be a better option. They're going to have thousands more, ATMs around a much larger region than your local banks, and that could save you money or be important to you for convenience sake. But that's a benefit of the national banks. Your payment processors are a slept on sometimes option. They're not the best option, but I do want to mention that you do have that option. One of the big ones that does this is Square. Square is one of the largest payment processors out there. And when I say payment processor, I mean the software or the platform that actually processes people's like credit card transactions. Okay. And so your payment processor might have a bank, and Square is an example of one that does. They didn't always, but they now have their own bank accounts that they can provide you. You can get a debit card to it and everything. You can have a savings account. They even have like what do you call it? Like account organizing folder where you can set, this is actually really pretty cool. A lot of banks do this now where you can preset like, I want 30% of everything that comes into this account to go into this savings folder for tax. I want that, you know what I mean? You can organize your in and out money, which is really cool. And it comes right from the sales that you are making. So if you're doing all of your sales on the Square platform, it might be super convenient to have your bank account also be right there. Square itself is not a bank. I believe the bank provider of the accounts is Sutton Bank, not Square itself. They have a partnership, but you get a debit card and it's nice. It's metal. It's fancy. Signature on it and everything. I really love that card. I never use it, but it's just really pretty. But the one downside to using the bank accounts of the payment processors is, should the payment processor decide for whatever reason that what you are selling violates their restricted or prohibited items policies, they will close your accounts or they will freeze your accounts while they investigate what they're looking into. And that could leave you without access to your money, in some cases up to 90 days. And there's just not a damn thing you can do about it. I've seen this happen to people through PayPal. I've seen this happen to people with Square. So if you're using these payment processors that can also work as a bank account and hold your money, know that should they freeze your account for any reason, your money will be frozen with them too. Okay. So what you probably want to do is open up a separate bank account, even if you utilize theirs. Open up a separate bank account where you periodically transfer everything out of that into your bank account that's not connected to that payment processor. And with platforms like Etsy, appearing to be disconnecting and deleting pages that are selling spiritual services in the wake of the increased attention on Etsy witches, and the fact that Etsy, their policy has always been that metaphysical services are not allowed. They just haven't really cared up until now, but now it looks like they're starting to care because people are, you know, talking about us in the news. So your payment processor could change their policies. They could suddenly decide they want to enforce ones that they didn't care about before. And having all of your money tied up with them might not be the best idea, but some of them do offer banking. And then, of course, you have virtual banks. There's tons of virtual banks out there that are specific for small businesses, especially. These virtual banks are going to be really easy to get set up on because, you can do that right from home as long as you have all the documentation you want. But you might not have access to ATMs. It might be difficult to speak with an actual person. There's no teller to just go and talk to or banker to work with. So virtual banks, I think, are best for if you're just getting started, or perhaps you are really concerned about bank fees and you can't seem to find one that doesn't charge a fee. And maybe a virtual bank is like, hey, we got $0, business bank accounts. So whatever your motivation might be to use one, then you certainly can do that, and they are available to you. But my recommendation would be to always be thinking about when it might be time to upgrade to one of these other banking options. Okay. The most important thing to do is to look for the fees that they're charging you. Okay. Do I have to have a minimum balance before they charge me a fee? Do I think I can meet the minimum balance? Is it a fee regardless, etc.? Is it a fee that's $0 for now, and then 90 days after that what's the deal with the fees? What is my access to the banks? Are there ATMs? How many? Where are they? Are there locations that I can go into, etc.? Just their customer service where I talk to a person. And what is the possibility for future relationships? Will these people talk to me? Can I have the same banker all the time, et cetera, et cetera? If you look into those three factors for each of your considerations, I think you'll end up with a really good choice. Okay. Now, something that one of the Better Witches, shout out to Lauren Berg, mentioned in the comments earlier today was, hey, I don't have a business bank account, but I do have a personal account that I use for all of my business transactions and my business transactions only. So they've got separate accounts and they use just one for business transactions. And my response was, great. That's a good place to start. It's better than nothing, but a business bank account is better. And I wanted to take a quick second just to talk about why it is better to actually get a bank account that is classified by that institution as a business bank account, as opposed to just using one of your personal accounts and just calling it your business bank account. The first benefit of a business bank account is that it's going to give you access to a whole bunch of financial services and benefits and perks that are usually left exclusively for business bank accounts. Personal accounts won't have those things. So if you wanted to go into a banker to talk about things, if you wanted to get financial advisement, if you wanted to learn more about stocks, if you want to take webinars and get educational materials, all of these things are usually available to the business account folks and not to the personal account folks. You also just get like convenience perks as well. Most banks that have physical locations have a special designated line and teller just for the business bank account, so you don't have to wait as long. You have a separate customer service line that you call. You don't have to wait as long. And so that can be really helpful for you if if you are here working a 9 to 5, maybe you've got a family you're taking care of, can't be at the bank for 3 hours, you know what I'm saying? So those perks can really come in handy. Next, a business bank account does help quite a bit with professional credibility. And this isn't just from like ooh, you look fancy kind of a standpoint. It can make a difference in terms of whether or not you're considered legit for like funding. Grants might require that you have a business account that they can deposit into before they award you your winnings, or your loan provider or an investor might have the same restriction. So it's credibility, but also like in some cases it might really be required in order to establish that you're legitimate. And then having a business bank account also gives you the starting foundation for building your business credit, because you're going to need to have an account like that in order to apply for like trade lines and things that can build your business credit, which is credit connected to your specifically your EIN, not your social, that we talked about last week. So there are some significant benefits to actually having a business account. So if you can do that, I would do it. Having two personal accounts can just like be for now. If you for whatever reason feel like it's going to be a minute before you can get your business account. Okay. The important thing to remember is that your business account is where your business lives. All right. It's not your wallet for like making transactions and stuff like that. It is where your business is growing, and you want to make sure that that is taken care of and protected as best you can. So you want to keep everything there separate. So, one of the biggest questions that people ask when they start having their own business bank account and when they start making personal money and business money is, how in the world do I pay myself? Like, how do I actually use this account now? The first thing I'll say is, before we even get into this, because I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, now that you have your business bank account, the easiest way to set things up and to think about things is that anything personal happening should happen out of your personal account. Anything business happening should happen out of your business account. Okay. So that means if I need to pay my rent, which is personal, and I need to use the money that I made doing tarot readings this month, then the money that I made doing tarot readings should be over here in my business account. And I'm going to take it out of my business account and put it into my personal. And then I'm going to pay my rent from over here. So yes, it's my business money, but I'm never going to write the check or make the transaction for my rent from this account. Anything that I need is going to come from here and go over there. And then I'm going to spend it over there. Anything that is under my business in terms of money coming in is not going to go into my personal. It is going to go directly into my business. Okay. So that's going to matter for how we talk about paying ourselves. All right. The very first thing to know about paying yourself is that it can happen in one of two ways. The first is you can pay yourself a salary. And by that, I mean you are basically a W-4 employee of your own business. This is a far more complicated process and is a situation that you will most likely not find yourself in for a little while, because you have to be making a certain amount of money for this approach to make sense. So, since most of us are not going to be paying ourselves a salary to start, how are we paying ourselves? We are doing what's called owner's distributions. Owner's distributions are exactly what they say. I am the owner and I am taking distributions out of my business account in order to pay for my life. The money that I'm taking out is not necessarily always the same or what have you, because I don't yet have a salary, but I do still need to get paid. So the way this works is, first, your business earns money. So you do your tarot readings, you do your healing sessions, your money comes into your business bank account. Then my recommendation to you, the first thing that you should do would be to set aside any taxes out of that. So maybe you have a separate folder or something, or another account to set it to the side, but you're going to take a approximate percentage. Your accountant can tell you what that is for you, and you're going to put that to the side for paying your income taxes. And then you're going to pay for your business expenses. So if you had to pay for your website, maybe you had to pay for a subscription to your MailChimp, maybe you had to buy some new business cards, whatever your business expenses, you're going to make sure that's all paid for. And then whatever is left over, you can decide what happens to it. You could invest it back into your business and get marketing or, whatever, do things for your business. Or if this is your source of income for paying your bills, you would send it over to yourself. So you can do that with you for yourself. So then you're going to transfer what's left over to yourself. Okay. Once it's in your personal account, what you spend it on is up to you. That's your life. Okay. That is entirely up to you. My recommendation for those transactions, by the way, it's a really good idea if you can set them up for an auto deposit of the same amount. Having it be the same amount and having it come out at the same time, either once a month or once a week, is a really great way to also keep things nice and clean and even, rather than being like, oh, I have a $60 bill, let me go take $60. Oh, I have a $20 bill, let me go take $20. Instead, just be like, I'm going to send over $100 a week. That is going to be enough for me to have what I need, and then I'm going to pay from there, is a good idea to keep it really, really extra clean. Okay. But as long as you're passing it over and it's marked as an owner's distribution, you're good. Now, what about the other way? What about when we want to give our money to our business from our 9-to-5 income? Let's say we have a 9-to-5 and we're trying to build our spiritual business on the side. How do we put money into our business, and is that even allowed? Yes, that is allowed. You're allowed to self-fund your business. And essentially, this is called an owner's contribution. It's the opposite of a distribution. And it basically kind of goes in just the opposite direction. You make your money from your job and you put your checks into your personal account, and then you set up some type of a transfer of the money that you need for your business over here, and then you spend on your business things from that account. Before we get into like some technicals about that, I think the important thing to understand and know and put into place as a practice is that you should always be considering these contributions as an investment in your business. So what that means is you have to put on your investor hat before you send money over to your business. Ask yourself the same questions an outside investor would ask. If you went up to them and say, hey, will you give me money for my business? They'd say, well, what's it about? Is this really legit? Is it going to solve people's problems? Is this problem important enough for people to spend money on? What's going to be the return on my investment? Will I get my money back? How soon? What will need to be done in order for us to get the money back and replenish my investment, et cetera? All those questions that an investor would ask before they say yes, ask yourself that too. Because sometimes we get into an unfortunate place where we are rescuing a sinking ship with our income. And the ship could be sinking for so many reasons. So many reasons. Some of those might not be your fault. But one of the most important things to cultivate as a founder, as a business person for yourself, as a solopreneur is discernment. And as frustrating and sad as it may be, you sometimes have to acknowledge that you are pirating a sink or captaining a sinking ship, and putting more of the income that you are making into it is not a good idea. Okay, so please don't just do that blindly. Think about it. Really ask yourself those questions, and then make that decision. Okay, but once you've made it, that's the way that you do it, and that's what it's called, an owner's contribution. Now, an important thing about the owner's contribution, and this applies to your distributions as well, is to track them. Okay. So when you're putting money into your business, keep a record of that. Your bank account will show it also, but it might be a good idea to put it on a spreadsheet, etc. If you're one of my program members, or if you're a bunker level member, the CEO dashboard is in the classroom. It's a spreadsheet that you can use to track what is coming in, what is going out, and you can keep track of your contributions there. And however you track it, it's important to do it. You can make transfers to support your business in periodic, lumps, but a better approach would be to do it all in one chunk and to do it as a loan, because you can make a loan from yourself to your business. And then that way your business can also pay you back for it, and kind of get the benefit of doing that. So the way you would do that is, does promissory have two R's? Promissory might not have two R's. I think that's a promissory note. Promissory note. I think it has one R. Anyway, so basically you would make a loan to your business and be like, okay, I think it's going to cost me, $5,000 to get this business up and running before I start making revenue. So I'm going to give myself a loan. And whenever you do a loan, it's a promissory note. That is the agreement. So you sign, your business signs, and then that way your business can also pay you back when the time comes under, whatever you agree to in the promissory note. So that's a really nice, like, clean, very obvious way of funding your business. Very, very formal, very, very put together. But if you don't go to that extent, that's okay. You might just do it periodically when it's needed. That's allowed, as long as you just track that too. All right. When it comes to funding your business, though, unlike actually, I would say with owner's distributions too, because ideally you want to get to the point where you are paying yourself a salary. I think that is and should be the goal. But certainly when it comes to funding your business, keeping it temporary should be the goal. The idea is that you are building something that is going to be able to sustain itself. Remember the analogy of the baby walking on its own 2 feet? Okay, that's where we want to get. And so the idea is that I'm not always going to be pumping in money from my 9 to 5. I'm going to do that until things turn the other way. It's, now I may be able to replace my 9 to 5. Okay, so keep it temporary. Keep in your mind that this won't be forever. All right. And then a couple of quick common mistakes, which kind of connects to some of the red flags that I mentioned in the beginning, but that would be using your business card or your account for personal spending, forgetting to set aside money for Uncle Sam and yourself. Notice when I talked about the owner distribution, I didn't say bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. I said step 1, step 2, step 3. So you should be doing those things in that order. Okay. Not like taking money from your readings to pay yourself first, and then figuring out your taxes or whatever. No, first taxes, then expenses, then what's left, pay myself, keep increasing that so that what's coming to me increases as well. And I think ultimately the biggest mistake people make in this regard is telling themselves that they need to make more money before they start doing any of these things, or operating and carrying themselves in this way. And that's just absolutely not the case. This should really it can start on day one, even if that doesn't mean opening up your bank account on day one, but thinking about how to go about handling the financial aspect of what you are doing properly, should absolutely start on day one. And you don't need to have made a single dollar to be asking yourself the question, like, okay, am I doing this right? So when it comes to the financial stuff, if you're doing it wrong, the consequences can be humongous. So it's never too late to start, never too early to start taking care of these things, okay? And my final thoughts on this is that your financial situation and your business bank account setup is about three things. It's about sustainability, safety, and longevity. We're building something that can keep going and that can thrive even if we need to take a break. We're not feeling well, we're resting. There's a loss in our family, there's a loss in our lives. We're trying to build something that is stands on its own 2 feet. We're trying to build something that is safe, that is protected, that ensures that we're safe and protected, that the people we serve are safe and protected, and that the business that we've created is safe and protected, and that it's able to last as long as we would like it to last, and that we have control over that. You know what I mean? So things aren't ending because they just fail. If they end because we chose that. And that's the type of power and agency that I think witches enjoy. Doing this ensures that you maintain that power and agency. So take it seriously. And if you have any questions over here, my Better Witches in the expansion session, I will take them now. For those of you who are watching this on a replay or tuning in on YouTube, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and being here. It has been absolutely great to have you. I pray that this is super, super useful information for you. Let me know down in the comments whether or not this was helpful. If it was, make sure to like this video, subscribe, because I'm dropping videos like this every single week. And we've got a lot of cool things coming up. I'm teaching a free training on knowing your rights. If you have never asked yourself the question of like, how am I protected legally as a practitioner, we need to start talking about that right away. And I want to make sure that all of you are safe, your websites are safe, your products are safe, that you are safe. So make sure to register for that webinar. I'll drop the details down in the comments so that you can register. It's a free training at the end of the month. So definitely check us out there. You can also join us over on School for ongoing conversation with me and all of the Better Witches, and consider leveling up while you're there to bunker level membership so that you can be a part of these weekly expansion sessions. You can get your one-on-one questions asked and take part in our co-working time together. All right, witches. I definitely look forward to seeing all of you next week. We have a new moon, super powerful new moon coming up on Tuesday. So enjoy the new moon, enjoy the start of the fire horse year, and I will see all of you in the next one. Blessed be.